Life already carries enough weight. There is work to be done, bills to be paid, mortgages, installments, responsibilities. Days begin early and often end late. Weekends are taken. In between, there are goals, ambitions, plan for the future. The mind keeps running, thinking, calculating, worrying. And somewhere within all of this, there is a quiet feeling that something is still missing. So the search begins. Books are read, methods are tried, advice is followed. Meditations, techniques, philosophies, religions. Yet, after all the effort, the same inner noise continues, the same constant chatter of thought, the same sense of friction. Anxiety appears, mental restlessness continues. Something still does not feel settled because the search itself begins from a feeling of a problem. There is a discomfort, so a solution is sought. There is disturbance, so the mind looks for medicine. How can this be fixed? What should be done? But often the real question is not even clear. Only the feeling of unease is clear. And then sometimes, almost by accident, something different is heard or read. Not another solution, not another method, something that does not quite fit the usual understanding. At first, it may not even make sense, but strangely, there may be a small sense of relief, just a small one. A moment where the mind becomes a little quieter, and that small relief becomes important because it shows something directly within experience. If all the previous solutions had truly worked, the search would have ended long ago, but they did not. So, when something appears that brings even a slight sense of ease, attention naturally stays with it. Nothing else needs to be done, the rest unfolds naturally. Because much of the burden being carried was never truly necessary. From the beginning, the mind was conditioned to chase, to achieve, to become, to constantly improve and accumulate. And this conditioning does not stop with work or success, it spreads into every corner of life, even into relationships and celebrations. Consider something simple like a wedding anniversary. Life is already full. There is a work pressure, bills waiting, responsibilities everywhere. Yet suddenly another expectation appears. A gift must be bought, perhaps $200, then a dinner reservation, another 100, a cake 50 more, and maybe a weekend getaway to show proper appreciation, $1,000 gone. All this added on top of already busy life. And when the partner arrives home, there may be even an expectation to perform happiness perfectly. Smiles, songs, romantic gestures. The same expectation often returns the other way as well. So now both people are working hard not only to live but to maintain the performance of living well. Another small example appears every year: birthdays. The day arrives and suddenly life becomes a production. Decorations everywhere, balloons that float for a few hours and suddenly sink to the floor. A cake large enough to feed 20 people, even though most guests are politely forcing down the last slice. Candles carefully arranged, photographs taken from 10 different angles, everyone singing loudly while someone pretends to look surprised. And when it finally ends, there are dishes to wash, wrapping paper everywhere, and another bill quietly waiting. Life itself was already happening perfectly well, but layer after layer of expectation has been added. Media shows how things should look, society repeats how things should be done, and gradually the mind becomes to believe these ideas. More effort, more expense, more performance, all added to a life that was already moving. None of this is wrong, but much of it is unnecessary. The mind simply continue repeating what it has learnt. And in the middle of all this activity, there is something the mind avoids at all cost: boredom. The moment nothing is happening, the mind becomes uncomfortable, so it runs again. More plans, more entertainment, more noise. But the very place that is avoided may hold something important: medicine. Because boredom is simply the moment when the mind is not busy chasing something. If that moment is not escaped from, something quiet begins to appear. A natural ease, a natural simplicity. Life begins to return to something more basic. Food when hungry, shelter when needed, clothes for the body, safety from danger, warmth from the weather. These simple necessities are enough for life to continue. Everything else is mostly decoration. Decoration that the mind slowly turned into obligation. But when attention begins to rest again in the natural rhythm of life, something changes. Effort reduces, comparison reduces, unnecessary expectations begin to fall away. Life becomes lighter, not because the world has changed, but because the mind is no longer constantly adding weight to it. And in that simplicity, something very familiar began to appear. It feels almost like returning home. Not a new place, but the quiet space that existed before life became filled with so many ideas about how it should be lived. So do not run from what is known as boredom. Stay with it. Because what appears to be boredom is not boredom at all. It is simply the quiet space where the mind is no longer chasing something. And in that quiet space, your natural state begins to reveal itself. In the beginning, it may be uncomfortable to stay in what mind has always been told that it is boredom. Even a little child, when left alone, was told, oh, he's by himself. So you were never actually given the opportunity to be by yourself. And now it is difficult, but that is where the medicine is. That is where the solution for all your problems lies, in that what is known as boredom. So stay with it. If it's unfamiliar, uncomfortable, let it be. Just notice that it is uncomfortable. That's all. And more you stay here, more you will be discovering your natural state, more your mind will be free from always running. There will be natural relief. It's like returning home, just like a newborn baby. Not a worry in the world when there is newborn baby mentally. Just returning to the natural state. Baby does not or never knew about boredom. It was taught. So it always ran away from that, what now it knows about boredom. Stay with it. Rest in it. In other words, that is all meditation means. Not that you are doing something. You are resting in your natural state, learning to rest again without that constant movement, without that constant requirement to act or perform. And you will experience that yourself, not because you are hearing these words, because they don't mean nothing unless you experience that peace within. And that's why you must be very selfish in that way. Don't settle for any words or anything that you hear or read or any book or anything unless you feel you experience peace within. And when you starting to feel that the peace is rising, then you don't need any words, you don't need any videos, you don't need any books, you don't need words, because all the words are pointing to that peace, that nature, that existence itself, which is already present. And that is the cure, which requires nothing at all. And it can be a little bit difficult to understand. From the very beginning, That is how you have been trained. For survival, yes, you need some food. Your belly should be full, otherwise, your attention will be on hunger. There should be safety, a roof over your head, otherwise, there will be seeking some shelter from weather or safety. Some clothes also is required because in modern days without clothes it's difficult. There are a lot of mosquitoes and all that will cause a lot of infection on the skin, so that is necessary. But when these necessities are there, almost in 70% of human beings, they are actually widely available, then you can rest. Your stomach is full, you are in a room or in a shelter, regardless of how big or small it is. You have some clothes, regardless of they are how they are. Then rest into your natural state. And in that boredom, you will discover everything that you are looking for.